Now in this tutorial, we will be creating this effect. Alright, if you like it, stay tuned. I want you to go ahead and download all the practice footage and every single thing that I've provided. The link is in the description. I want you to download everything so that you can actually practice with this video. And then once you learn how to do it, you can go ahead and shoot your own video and then actually replicate the same exact visual. Now, if you're already advanced in using Adobe After Effects, you don't need to do this. But if you're not, I highly recommend following this step by step. Once you've downloaded everything, be sure to import this into Adobe After Effects and begin working. Now, what I want you to do is come back over here into your footage section and click on your energy blast and then drag that into this specific area. Awesome. Now, once you've done that, what I want you to do is go ahead and, as you can see, we have imported our footage. Now, this is going to be the area where we're actually going to start our animation, just about right here where he's getting ready to open his arm. So I would say right around here. We're going to hit Command-Shift-D to split this layer. And then come all the way over here where he basically throws the blast right around here. I'd say right around here is perfect. Hit Command-Shift-D. And then we're going to place a lock on these two. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to rename this to main. Be sure to come over here and change the color as well to maybe like blue. Okay, we could probably do blue today. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on this first layer. Matter of fact, come over here, click on the hiding layer, hide these two layers, and this is going to be the only area we're going to be focusing on. So you can just press N and B and then come over here and zoom in a bit. So this is just going to be the area we're going to be just focused on, if that makes sense. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to come all the way over here. And we're going to actually import our energy. Now, guys, if you come over here to the VFX folder, and if you guys did definitely import the energy ball, I created this energy ball right here in Adobe After Effects. So just be sure to drag that energy ball right here into our timeline and place it on top of the main. Now, of course, the energy ball has a black background. And if, as you guys already know, if you come all the way down to your toggle switches in mode, under mode, click on normal, set this from what's it called, normal to screen. That way it can remove the black background. Now, of course, since we removed our black background, it allowed our energy ball to be a little bit more, how do I put in the words, brighter. So what you can even do is you can come over here and set it back to normal again. And in the effects and presets tab, you can search up linear color key. Now, if you click on linear color key and place it into the composition, and then select the black area, that's going to automatically remove the black unwanted area. Now, if you go ahead and increase the matching tolerance a little bit to maybe like 36 and the softness a bit to, let's say, 99. This will allow us to still retain some colorization from our energy ball. And that's what we're going to be basically using today. Now, of course, since we have done that, right, we're going to hit Command S on our keyboard to save our project. Now, of course, we're going to save this project as energy ball kill. And press enter to save your current progress. So guys, we're going to go ahead and animate our position and our scaling of this specific energy ball. So what we're going to do next is we're going to press S on the keyboard to bring up the scale, set a keyframe on scale, hit Shift P to bring up position as well too, and hit a keyframe on position. Now go ahead and reduce the size of the energy ball just a bit, right, and position it right here in the midst of our hand. Now, you can zoom in, press space, and then move everything. Hold space and move everything. And you can position it right here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to manually animate the position of our energy ball. Move this time indicator a few frames forward, reposition it down. Move this time indicator a few frames forward, reposition it down. Move this time indicator a few frames forward again, maybe a little bit down. So it's like if you move the time indicator backwards, it's following our hand. Now, of course, you can personally do motion tracking. I did teach you guys how to do motion tracking. You can do that instead of having to do this step. But for this specific step, we're going to manually do everything ourselves. So what I'm going to do next is, let's see, move it down a bit right here and then maybe reposition it somewhere around here. And then come over here in this last keyframe and delete it. So it's going to be, there we go. And then right around here, we're gonna add a keyframe on position. Move a few frames forward, bring it right here, move a few frames forward, bring it right here, move a few frames forward, bring it right here in the midst of my palm, move a few frames forward, hold space, click and hold space and move everything, reposition it right here, over here on my palm, right here, hold space, reposition everything, and then bring it over here, and then reposition it right around here, and then right here. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna come all the way backwards, right? If you zoom back out, you should see that everything has been completely following my guy perfectly. So just about right here, right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a keyframe on scale. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna just make the scale a little bit much more smaller. There we go. And then whilst my hand comes to this specific area, we're gonna add a keyframe on the scale. And then we're gonna move forward a few frames forward. We're gonna increase the scale a bit. And then what we're gonna do is we are actually gonna add also a keyframe on position. And then we're gonna go ahead and move all the way about a few couple of frames, and then move this all the way somewhere over here and reduce the scale a bit as well too. So if you zoom in, we can reduce the scale, hold space, click and hold, reposition, reduce the scale all the way somewhere around here. And then if you go ahead and click on toggle switches and mode and enable motion blur. So if you go ahead and come all the way to the very beginning, we have this. There we go. So you see as I do the little blow effect, our energy ball gets bigger and then it shoots. Perfect. Now this is the foundation of what we're going to be working on. So as it shoots all the way to the very end, move to the next keyframe, hit Control Shift D, and then split the layer. Now of course you can change the energy ball color as well too, or you can leave it exactly how it is. But for me, I'm gonna probably change the color also to blue, and maybe come back to the main and change the main color from blue to maybe like dark green, and then place a lock on main. Now before we do anything, we're going to come all the way to the project settings, and we're going to go ahead and come to the SFX tab. Under SFX, grab the bright beam sound effect. I customized the sound effect a little bit. Drag it on top of our layer. Now be sure to change the color as well to peach. And then place it below our main itself. Now be sure to place it below. Now if you double click L, you can check out the sound. So it should be. Now what you can do is right click on this bright beam, go to time stretch, and maybe stretch it a bit to maybe like 120, and then press OK. And then be sure to also press L and then lower down the volume just a bit. Hit Command S or Control S to save your progress, and then press play. So if you come to the beginning and press spacebar. Perfect. Now come over here and grab the energy ball itself. Press T on the keyboard, set a keyframe on opacity, and be sure to move this keyframe a few frames forward and maybe decrease this to 0. Now if you come over here and press play, we have that slow animation. Perfect. Hit Control S to save your current progress. Now before we add anything, right, we want our energy to start to appear behind our hand. So right around here is where we're going to start working on our energy ball. So bring the time indicator just about right here. Now when you bring it over here, turn off the lock from the main, hit hit Command or Control D to duplicate, and hit Command Shift D to split the second layer. Now be sure to rename this to mask. Change the color from this to yellow. Turn off the sound, and then what you're gonna do is we're gonna rotoscope our hand. All right, we're gonna rotoscope this specific hand, and we're gonna use that for this specific effect. So what I want you to do is go ahead and place a lock on the main itself. Double click on the mask layer and come back into the composition layer. Make sure you change the quality from quarter to full, and be sure to zoom all the way in. Now double click it one more time, press the space bar and drag everything. Make sure you click and hold and drag everything down. Zoom in your hand. And what I want you to do is come over here to the top side and click on the roto brush tool. Now, double click it one more time. And then if you come to the effects and control settings, what you want to do is hold command, click and hold, and increase the size of your brush tool, just in case if your brush tool is a little bit small. Now, what I want you to do is go ahead and draw a little mask around our hand. Now, remember in the other tutorials I taught you guys how to use the roto brush properly. So hold Option or Alt to basically remove any forms of unwanted areas. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna slowly start to track our hand a bit. So you can zoom in and refine the edges a bit. You can do that. You can do that. And then move to the next frame. Move back a frame and then readjust it one more time. So we're going to be doing this throughout. Okay? Hold space, drag everything, refine the edges a bit more. Refine the edges a bit more. Move to the next frame. Remove the unwanted areas. And then go ahead and select these areas. Okay? So be sure to repeat the same process. You can even select the blue as well too if you desire. Just select the blue wristband as well too. That allows the computer to manually track our scene. So what we're doing is every single frame, we are repeating the same exact process. Okay? And that's what we're practically doing. You can use the masking option, but the masking option with mask path tends to take a little bit much more longer. So the roto brush kind of makes life a little bit easier. Remove the unwanted areas. Remove the unwanted areas. Select the areas you want to be tracked. Zoom in. Do it well. Doesn't have to be completely perfect, but just perfect enough. Bring it up again. And just keep repeating the same process. I might have to fast forward a little bit because this is going to take a very, very long time. But repeat the same process until your hand has been perfectly masked out properly. Awesome. When you guys reach to the very end of our energy ball, like right here where the animation actually stopped, you can also stop the mask. Hit Command Shift D to split this specific end layer and delete it. Now, if you come back into your composition settings, hit on the selection tool, change this from 100 to fit. And now if you were to place your mask on top of the energy ball, it appears as if that the energy ball is right behind your hand. Now, of course, in the energy ball settings, be sure to, in the mask settings, be sure to go ahead and adjust the feathering a bit. So you can feather this out, I'd say about 20. Just a bit. You don't want it to be too much, and maybe you can shift edge. You can increase the edge a little bit, maybe like, I think by 15 is okay, or decrease it a bit to maybe like -3. I think maybe -13 might do it. And just basically increase or decrease to your settings. Now, of course, if you are definitely doing this manually by yourself, it should definitely look different. Hit Command S to save your current progress. Come all the way down to quarter. Change the quality back to quarter. And now let's say if you were to zoom out and if you were to take a look at it, you can clearly see that our hand is behind it. So to make this rendering a little bit much more faster and easier, I want you to go ahead and solo out the hand. Change the quality back to full. And now you can actually be able to identify areas where it needs some proper adjustment. So say if you needed to adjust it a bit more, you can come right back into the layer mask settings and come all the way over here and then readjust it a bit if you desire to do that as well too. But if it's all okay and it looks exactly as how you desire it to look, come all the way over here, press B, come all the way to the very end and press N on your keyboard. And then what I want you to do is hit Command S to save your current progress. And I want you to go ahead and click on the layer, turn off all the sounds from the layer itself, come all the way to File export, add to render queue, and then I want you to go ahead and click on H.264, click on this and come all the way down to QuickTime. Make sure the format option is set to animation. Press OK. Press actually go back, press channels on RGB, make sure to click on RGB plus alpha. Press OK, come all the way to the blast and change this to masked hand. And maybe save it also in your import to AE folder, or you can even save it in your downloads. It doesn't matter. Save it somewhere, press render. Let it process. Once it is finished processing, what I want you to do is close out the render queue settings, come over here to the mask settings and just basically turn it off. You can even place a lock on it, and you can even hide the layer. Now come back to your project settings, and I want you to come back into the project panel, double click in this space, and then come all the way to your downloads. Click on your masked hand, click on it to import. Place this also into footage. Click on footage, click on the mask hand, import it right down here on top of our layer. That way it can fit perfectly in our composition. Now, as you can see, the mask hand itself is right here. So now we have perfectly masked out our hand. And every time we are to basically like play it, we should not have any problems in terms of quality or slowing down the rendering. So if you come over here once again, let me zoom out a bit, move this time indicator to the very beginning, and press play. You see? It matches perfectly. It's perfect. Hit Command S to save, and then go ahead and change the mask hand to yellow. Now, be sure to place a lock on that so we don't mess around with it. So now let's go ahead and let's come back over here and turn on the sound for both of the layers. Now, if we press play, come all the way and basically trim this back to the very beginning. Change the quality to quarter. Perfect. This is awesome. This is starting to look like what we desired for it to look. Now, you notice how this, when I increase the scale of the energy ball over here, it overlaps my hand a little bit. Press S on the keyboard, and right around here where it gets pretty big, you can decrease the scale a bit in that specific keyframe to right around here. Right? Just right here. So it's not overlapping anything. So although it's small, it gets big just a bit. And then, boom, it shoots out of our hand. Perfect. Hit Command S to save your current progress. Now, of course, I did include in the sound effects tab, I did include an explosion sound effect. So what we can even do is take the same explosion sound effect, place it below our layer, right click on it, go to time, and time reverse layer. Now, be sure to reverse the sound of the explosion itself and drag it all the way over here to the very end. This is going to it's going to create that whoosh sound effect. Crop this out a bit, press L on your keyboard, set your audio levels from here, and be sure to come over here and set a keyframe over here, move to the very end, and maybe decrease your keyframe a bit to like -24. Hit Command S to save, come all the way to the very beginning as well, and also decrease it as well to like -30. If you press play, and then go ahead and reposition this right around where the blast shoots. So right around here. Perfect. So if you press play, now remember, hit Command S to save your current progress. I did tell you guys that you guys can actually substitute the energy ball with something else. So you can be sure to do that. Be sure to substitute the energy ball with something else that you desire. Now let's go ahead and let's play around with the colorization, the glow, and adding some distortion to our energy ball. Now, of course, if you already know how this process works, what we're going to do is we're actually going to come into the effects and presets tab and search up color vibrance. Now, if you guys click on color vibrance, drag color vibrance to our energy ball. Now, you can change the color of the energy ball to anything you desire, right? Feel free to change the color. Feel free to play around with the colorization settings. Maybe you want to make it red. Maybe you want to make it purple. You can do it whatever you desire. So I'm probably going to make it like purple. And then maybe I'm going to increase the vibrance a bit more. I'm going to increase the brightness just a bit. The gamma right around here is perfect. Then I'm going to come back to the effects and presets tab, and I'm going to go ahead and search up this effect called glow. Drag glow into your energy ball. This is going to allow your energy ball itself to have a glow. You can increase the glow radius a bit, maybe decrease the threshold, or maybe the threshold itself, increase it a little bit to 100, and you can play around with the intensity. So the intensity, you can make it a little bit much more bigger. Now you can place it on top of the color vibrance, but it creates a different effect. So place it below the color vibrance itself so that we can have this wonderful effect. Hit Command S to save your current progress. So as you can see, we have added a glow to our energy ball. Now let's add an outer glow. And to do that, we're going to create an adjustment layer. So to create an adjustment layer, once again, you right click in this space, go to new, go to adjustment layer, hit Command Shift D to split the layer a bit. Come all the way over here to the very end, hit Command Shift D to split the layer once again. Now, of course, what we're going to do is we're going to click on the adjustment layer, and then we're going to come all the way over here to the eclipse tool, click on the eclipse tool, and draw a circle around our glow itself. Now be sure in the settings right here, be sure to click on the parent link and pair it up to the energy ball itself. Now be sure to place the adjustment below our masked hand, and come all the way over here and press M on the keyboard. Click on the mask itself and reposition the mask so that it centers directly on our what's it called, energy. Now come all the way into the effects and presets tab and search up what's it called, curves. Now go ahead and place it on the adjustment layer. Now change the adjustment layer's name to outer glow, and be sure to click on it. Now come into the effects and control settings. Now you can feel free to increase the RGB a bit. Come over here to the reds, maybe increase the reds just a bit, and I believe the blues, you can increase the blues, or no, I think increase the blue a bit to create that purple haze. Now come back to the green and decrease the green a bit so that we get that extra purple haze looking type of thing. Now what we can do is come back to the RGB, and maybe the RGB settings, you can even decrease it just a bit. Hit Command S to save your current progress. Now be sure to press F on the keyboard to bring the feather settings. Now feather this out a bit, so we have this extra look. Now be sure to come all the way over here and come and click on the glow itself. Press T on the keyboard, outer glow. Set as stopwatch on opacity. Move this keyframe a few frames forward. Decrease the value to 0. Hit Command S to save. Press play. Perfect. Now here's what we're going to do next. We're going to add an adjustment, another adjustment layer. But in this second adjustment layer, we're going to add some heat distortion. So what you can even do is click on the outer glow, hit Control D to duplicate it a second time. Rename this to distortion. And then what you can even do is come all the way over here in Nest Settings and delete the curves. Come to the Effects and Presets tab and search up Heat Distortion. Drag Heat Distortion into your layer. If you guys don't have the Heat Distortion, be sure to get it, because I told you guys to buy this a while ago. So you can increase the brightness amount, and then maybe the wind speed, you can leave it exactly as it is. Press F. Maybe you can adjust the feathering a bit more, and maybe you can adjust the mask itself so that it doesn't look the same. You can adjust it. Feel free. Play around with the settings. So it could be, you can even adjust the speed. Matter of fact, adjust the speed of the distortion. Adjust the wind speed a bit more. Come all over here. Hit Command S to save your current progress. See, that's one way to do it. Now, of course, you guys know that I always tend to add a little bit of some blur and some other stuff to it to make that realistic look. You can always turn off the lens if you don't want the lens. If you just want the glow itself, you can do that. You can just do that. That's if you want to add a lens, but I wanted to just show you guys that you guys can also add a lens, just in case if, let's say, it's dark outside and you're doing this edit. A lens could definitely change certain things. Hit Command S to save your current progress. Now that we have added those things, right, we're going to add a few couple of things to our scene to create this realistic look. Now, hit Command S to save your current progress. Now be sure to trim this back over here to the very beginning. Press play. I'm trying to figure out what we can add to make this much more cooler. Yes, so right around here where, how do I put it in words? Our blast comes out of our hand. What we can even do is we can add a shockwave. Now, come all the way over here to the VFX tab and click on the Shockwave green screen. Click on Shockwave green screen and drag it into a separate composition. Now, be sure to go ahead and adjust the size of this thing back to 100. And be sure to come all the way over here to the very end where the first set of shockwaves stops. Press N on the keyboard, right-click, trim comp to work area. So we're only going to be working with this area. Now, be sure to come over here to the composition settings and just change the name to Shockwave. Come over here to the Effects and Presets tab and search up Key Light. Drag Key Light into this composition. Click on the color pick, click on the green, and then be sure to come back. Click on Hue/Saturation. Drag Hue/Saturation into our composition. Click the Colorize. Change the color saturation to 0 and increase the lightness to 100. And then be sure to come over here, hold Shift, and double click on the Ellipse tool to create a perfect circle. Now, press F on the keyboard, feather that circle all the way to like 406. Move the time indicator right around here, and then triple click M, decrease the expansion a bit. There we go. Perfect. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back into our Energy Blast Kill layer. And what we can even do is come back into the project panel, and you guys should see Shockwave, the one we just created. Click on that Shockwave and drag it right here below my hand and on top of the mask itself. You can position the Shockwave right around here. If you press play, and of course the Shockwave itself is very slow, you can right click on the Shockwave, go to time stretch, and change this to like maybe like 30. If you press play, and then maybe come over here, press S, and increase the size of the Shockwave a bit. Now there is a shockwave, but you can't necessarily see it well. So what you can even do is click the shockwave itself. Now draw a mask, right? Click on the pen tool and draw a mask around my body. So just right around this area, because we want the shockwave to take effect, but we don't want it to affect. Let me reposition this a bit. We don't want it to affect my body itself. We don't want it to come past these areas. Zoom back out. Just draw a nice rough mask around this area so that the shockwave can appear to be behind this scene. It doesn't have to be perfect. Press F, feather this out, and change this from add to subtract. So now the shockwave, there we go. Now if the shockwave, you guys don't like the color, drag Hue/Saturation on the shockwave in this setting, click on colorize, and maybe darken it a bit so you can see it. That's if you want to add that shockwave. Let's say we darken it just a bit, or we make it a little bit like a gray color. Perfect. You can even press S on the keyboard, set a keyframe on the scale itself, move this keyframe a bit forward, and maybe decrease the scale of the shockwave a bit. Hit Command S and enable motion blur on the shockwave. That's one way to do it. I wanted to show you guys how to add the shockwave. You can right click on the shockwave, go to time stretch once again. If it's too fast, change it back to like maybe like 50, and then press S, and then maybe decrease the scale a bit around here. So it's like, I don't know. I personally don't like the shockwave there, so I'm just probably gonna delete it, guys. But I wanted to show you guys how to do it. Hit Command S to save, and then feel free to adjust it. Perfect. Hit Command S to save. Now let's go ahead and bring in our subject. Now, of course, I'm going to be using the monster picture as an example for our effect. So grab the monster PNG and drag it and place it below the main. Now, it could be there this whole entire time. So you can use any picture to do this. So just maybe place the picture somewhere around here. Decrease the scale. Come all the way to the part where the energy blast stops, somewhere around here. So just place it right here. So place the monster right around here. Maybe you can decrease the monster just a bit more. Zoom all the way in. Maybe change the quality from quarter to full so you can see it better. Place it right here. Oops, there we go. Command S to save, and just place the monster somewhere around here. Right here. Perfect. And then I'm going to press R on the keyboard, and then I'm going to just basically rotate my monster just a bit. Now, just go ahead. If it's slowing down, just go ahead and solo out the monster and our main. Now, hit Command S to save your current progress. And if you move this time indicator a few frames back, you can see that our monster has always been there in the scene. Now, let's say if you wanted to add a shadow to our monster. If you wanted to add a shadow, you can do, I can show you this technique. I've never seen nobody do it on YouTube, but I learned this technique a while ago. Hit Control D to duplicate the monster. Go ahead and rename this to shadow, the top layer to shadow. Now, be sure to click on the shadow itself, right? And make this a 3D layer. So what I want you to do is come back down to the orientation settings, come back down to transform, and I want you to go ahead and make this specific first part 306, and maybe Control Z, and maybe offset it just a bit. You can even offset it to the left. So for our scene, since there's no, there is really no shadow, I'm just kind of probably going to offset this a bit. And then maybe change the orientation a bit so it matches the floor, and place it right here below my guy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the shadow right here below the monster. Probably going to, matter of fact, place it a little bit too below. Change the color of the shadow to maybe like a green color. That way we know it's a shadow. Come over here to the Effects and Presets tab and click on the Hue/Saturation and drag it to the shadow. Click on Colorize, decrease the saturation to 0, and decrease the lightness to 0 as well too, so it allows our shadow to be black. Press T on the keyboard and decrease the color to maybe like opacity to maybe like 28, because my shot itself, there really isn't a shadow, but we just created a shadow with it. So you can feel free to change the offsetting. You can offset it a bit, right? Click on Z and maybe rotate it a bit. Let's say if the light is coming from this specific angle, you can have the light shine directly to our character. So let's say the light is coming from here, and then the shadow is shining on a subject, and it's cascading a shade right here on the ground. You can do that. I just wanted to show you guys that technique, if that makes sense. You can press S and decrease the scale a bit more, and maybe just stretch it out a bit so to make it look like a realistic shadow, and place it right here at the very bottom. And we just created a shadow, but it's so far away you can't really see it. And then go ahead and press this fit to 100. Command S to save your progress. Now, of course, as the energy blast comes from my hand and shoots all the way to our character, what we're gonna do is we're gonna blow up our character. So I want you to come over here to the VFX settings. Be sure to turn off the solo button so that everything comes back. Come all the way back to the part where our energy ball hits our character. And what we can do is we can come back into our VFX tab and click on the explosion elements. I'm trying to figure out which explosion element will be cool. Let's see, explosion fireball, explosion gigantic. Maybe explosion gigantic might be the one I can use. Click on explosion gigantic and drag that into our layer. And just reposition it just a bit. Zoom out and reposition the explosion. Now, if it's giving you some slowing down problems, just go ahead and click on the distortion layer and just turn it off. Hit Command S to save. Now, be sure to reposition the explosion itself right here. Let me change the quality back to quarter because my computer is slowing down a bit. And what you can even do is click on the anchor point tool. Click on this and drag this right here. Now, let me go ahead and change the color of the explosion to orange. That way I can see better. Hit Command S to save. And press S on the keyboard for the explosion gigantic and decrease the size a bit. So as our energy ball hits our character, some explosion takes place. So it could be the explosion takes place right at the moment where it hits. So just about right here. And then what you can even do is, if you go ahead and unhide the layers, click on this top layer, unlock it, and drag this at the very bottom of our everything. Place a lock back on it, and you can feel free to hide it back again. Now, if you press play, if you want the explosion to happen a bit faster, right click on it, go to time stretch, change this to maybe like 75. So it happens a bit quicker. And then as the explosion takes place, what you can even do is you can even increase the scale of our explosion. Press S once again. Maybe increase the scale of the explosion a bit. And so as our explosion takes place, our character should be disappearing. So what you can even do is go ahead and right here at the very bottom, you can click on both of these monsters and the monster shadow. Hit Command Shift D to split the layer. And then come over here and click on the shadow 2 and delete the shadow 2. Click on our guy, and then we can even add a scatterize effect to the scene. So search up in the effects controls settings, you can search up scatterize. CC scatterize. Now click on CC scatterize and place it on top of our monster. Click on the scatter effect, and as the fire is consuming our character disintegrates. Now it should be like, you see what I'm saying? It's happening. So if we press U on the keyboard to see the keyframes, we have basically disintegrated our character. And what you can even do is come over here to the very beginning, press T, hit a stopwatch on opacity, move forward a few frames, and maybe decrease this to 0. Hit Command Shift D and cut the end out, or Control Shift D. If you press play, right? Not bad. Not bad, not bad, not bad. Hit Command S to save your progress. And what you can even do is, you see the energy ball itself hits right here. You can come back and click on the energy ball and maybe reposition it somewhere down here. And maybe press S on the keyboard and maybe decrease the scale to maybe like 1. Reposition it back down here. Hit Command S to save. So it's right here at the base of where the disintegration takes place. Press play. All right, we're getting somewhere. Hit Command S to save, and then come back into your effects and preset settings. You know what, I'm not even gonna add a glow. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add an adjustment layer. So just click on one of the adjustment layers, the outer glow adjustment layer. Control D to duplicate it to create outer glow 2 and place that at the very bottom. Reposition it right here on top of our I guess explosion. Now go ahead and change the parent link to none. Now click on the effects and control settings, reset. Click on the mask, delete the mask. Press S and increase this back to 100. And then reposition this back to where it needs to be. Or you can even feel free and just press S and just increase the scale, but just increase the scale. Zoom back in, and I want you to draw a mask, right? Take this time indicator a few frames forward, and I want you to just draw a mask around here. This is going to be our glow area. Come into the effects and control settings, increase the RGB a bit. Come to the red, increase the red. Come to the blue, decrease the blue to create this glow. Press F, feather this out a bit, and we've created some sort of glow. Come over here to the very beginning. If you press T, you should already see our glow, or it's already taking place. You can always increase the red, decrease the blues to create that much more of a realistic, reanimate the mask a bit. You can do that. And as the glow itself starts to shoot up, press M on the keyboard and set a keyframe on the mask path. Come all the way to the very beginning and move this mask a bit upwards so it kind of follows our character. And press T, set a keyframe right here, move a few frames forward, and maybe decrease this to 0. So it should be, should have that slow animation. Command S to save. And what we can do is we can add some sound effect. Come into the SFX tab and click on the explosion sound effect itself. Drag the explosion sound effect itself right here below our guy. Double click L and place it right here. If you press play, we're getting somewhere. Hit Command S to save your current progress. Now remember, if you guys have purchased a lot of the dust and all those explosion elements, feel free to add as many things as possible. So I'm going to hit Command S to save the current progress, change the quality back to full. And what I can even do is, you see this distortion? This outer glow. I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate it a third time and type in Distortion 2. On Distortion 2, click on the layer, go to the effects and control settings, delete the curves. Come into the effects and preset settings and type in heat distortion. And we're going to add a little small heat wave. Adjust the speed a bit and maybe increase the heat amount. Press F and maybe increase the feathering amount a bit. Hit Command S to save. Change the quality back from full to quarter, and if you press play, we have added some distortion to our fire. Hit Command S to save your current progress. Come back to this distortion and turn it back on. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to add some dust. Now come over here to the VFX settings and click on the dust wave. Click on the dust wave and drag the dust wave into our composition. Now, of course, you're going to right click on the dust itself. Click on time stretch. Maybe change the stretch factor to 40. Click on the hue. Actually, click on the hue/saturation. Type it in here. Drag it into the dust wave. Click on colorize and change the color of this dust wave a little bit to, let's change it maybe to like somewhere around like green. Somewhere around here. Maybe increase the lightness just a bit. Somewhere around here. So it matches a little bit of our ground. Reposition the dust right around here. Press S and maybe decrease the scale a bit. And then if you come over here and you press play, we have added some dust. Now you can feel free to add as many layers of dust as possible. Now if the dust itself has a weird color, feel free to decrease the saturation and increase the lightness so it's white. You can add some dust. You can add some debris. Let me see if I still have my debris. For some reason, I couldn't find my elements. So we're just gonna come over here to the VFX tab. And under the explosion elements, I know they did have some dust. This is some pretty good dust right here. Explosion ground blast. I'm gonna go ahead and drag that into my layer. Now, I'm going to go ahead and click on the dust wave itself. Come to the effects and controls. Click on the hue/saturation. Hit Control C or Command C to copy that. Come back into the ground blast. Control V or Command V to paste that. Then what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and reposition this right around here. So if I press play, we have an extra layer of dust taking place. Now, I can go ahead and turn off the previous dust. And if I press play, it blends in perfectly well with our scene. Now, of course, you can have the dust itself by hitting a stopwatch on opacity, moving this a few frames forward, and maybe decreasing this to 0. So we can have that slow motion. Come back and turn on this previous dust. There we go. You can even have the ground blast dust behind the dust wave. So it could be, my apologies. You can have that below the explosion. Let's see how it looks like. That's not bad. It's really not bad. Hit Command S to save your current progress. And then you can do that. Let's see. Maybe the explosion, maybe you don't want it to be too vivid. You can press T on the keyboard and maybe decrease the opacity just a bit. You can do that. Command S to save your current progress. So now if you come over here to the very beginning and press play. Now I do recommend using, I definitely do recommend using some of the visual effects that I did provide in the course so far. If you guys definitely did purchase some different VFX, be sure to grab those VFX as well too, and use them, right, in your explosion. Maybe one day I'm gonna do a full tutorial to create realistic explosion. Normally it's always good to add some debris, but for some reason I can't find my debris in here. I think I lost my hard drive, so I would have to figure out a way to go find that hard drive where I have all those VFX in there. Now, you can go ahead and do that. So let's say if I come over here, and let's say, matter of fact, let me come back over here to the outer glow, double click M to reveal the mask properties. I can increase the expansion a bit more. Yeah, let me increase the expansion a bit more to create that more of a realistic glow. Click on the outer glow and place it on top of everything. And if I feather it out a bit more, it's not too yellowy. Command S to save. It's perfect. Let me change the quality back to quarter. And if I press play, you can even come over here to your character, the monster, right? Press T. And maybe you don't want it to start disappearing right away. Maybe move this, offset this opacity a few frames forward. Maybe increase this a bit more and maybe have it like this. There we go. So what you can even do is, you can do it like that. Maybe you can come all the way over here and maybe offset this a bit like this. So it's like, it's more like a slow burn. Perfect. You can do it like that. And then zoom back out. So far we have added some energy blast in our hand, motion tracked it perfectly to our hand, and then we have created this sort of like a mini explosion effect. I'll call this a lazy edit because this is not the best kind of edit. But let's say if you did this on hard concrete ground, you can add some ground cracks, some ground dust, ground burst, and add that into that specific area to create that boosh effect. Command S to save your current progress. Now, of course, I did shoot my scene with the ISO and the exposure pretty high. That's the reason why you can't even see the sky. But if I were to come over here and search up brightness and contrast, drag brightness and contrast to my main footage, and if I were to decrease, my apologies, if I were to decrease, I don't know why it's not appearing in my scene. Oh, my apologies, guys. There we go. If I were to decrease the brightness a bit and maybe increase the contrast, that way you can see my footage a bit more better. You can also do that. And then hit Command Control C to copy the same brightness and contrast settings. Unhide these layers. Come over here to the very first layer. Unlock it. Click on it. Hit Control V. Come over here to the second layer. Unlock it. Control V. So that the same settings stays throughout. And then you can come over here to this side. I think I did paste it here. I don't know why it's not showing. I think it probably got brighter. I don't know why it got brighter. Let me see what I did wrong. I'm gonna hit Control V, I think. But anyways, I wanted to show you guys how to add the brightness. You can choose to add the brightness if you want. Let me see. Let me click on main. Oh yeah, I figured out the problem. Hit Command Control C to copy it. Come over here to this one. Hit Control V. Come over here to this one and hit Control V. So now we have the same settings. And maybe if the glow itself is a little bit offsetted, you can click on the outer glow. Press M on the keyboard. Click on the mask and reposition this right here. So it's right there. Hit Command S to save, and if you press play, you can substitute the monster with something else. Remember that. Command S to save the progress, and then go ahead and let's go ahead and pre-compose everything and add some camera shake to this. So be sure to come over here to the very beginning and make sure you've unlocked everything. Select all the layers. Right click on all the layers. Click pre-compose and type in effect. Done. Now, of course, you guys should already know exactly how to add some camera shake. So I'm not going to explain too much. I'm just going to come to the very part where the explosion takes place. So say around right here, Control Shift to D, move a few frames forward, Control Shift to D, and then what I can do is come over here to the effects and preset settings and just type in wiggle position, drag that in here, type in motion tile, drag that also in here, drag it on top of my wiggle position, click on mirror edges, increase the output width and the output height a bit, and maybe increase the wiggle speed a bit more and enable motion blur. So it's if it's a little bit too slow, I can increase the wiggle speed amount a bit and crop this out and trim this up here a bit. If the wiggle's a little bit too much, just bring it down here, and maybe I can click on this, reduce the wiggle speed a bit. And play around with the effects a bit more. Feel free to do that. And of course, you can always add your own color grade. So by adding your own color grading options, I'm going to add some LUTs. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the Joker LUT. I love it. It's such a nice color. I got this from the Triune Digital VFX pack. It's pretty nice. It has a really nice touch to the color. So if I press play, I mean, of course, it reduces the color of the purple. So I'm gonna hit Command S to save the current progress. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna zoom in. Of course, the purple itself is a little bit, it takes away the color of the purple. So I'm gonna press T, and I'm probably gonna reduce this a bit. Matter of fact, I'm just gonna keep it like that. And then maybe I can come over here to Lumetri color, drag Lumetri color into my settings, go to creative, and maybe under the HSL, or is this the color wheels? No, I don't want the color wheels. Let me see if it's curves. I believe it's curves. Come over here to the hue settings, and maybe let's see if we can do something to our, okay, I don't think it's this one. It might be this one. Okay, there we go. Maybe we can play around with the hue a bit to add another setting. I don't know why my mouse is acting like that. Let's see. That's so weird. Okay, give me a second, guys. Let me play around with it to create the look that I'm looking for. It's too much brightness. We don't want that. You know what? Forget about the Lumetri color. Let me turn off the Lumetri color. I might just have to come back in here, and then maybe I might just change the energy ball's color to maybe like blue. I might change it to blue. Let's just change the energy ball color to blue, and then let's click on the outer glow, and then I can maybe readjust the color. Come over here to the blue, increase the blue. Guys, feel free to play around with it. Come over here to the red, decrease the red. There we go. Come back over here. Now we have a different color. Perfect. That's more like it. And then maybe in my outer glow layer, my apologies, in the outer glow layer, I'm going to double click the outer glow. I'm going to press F, and I'm going to feather this out a bit more to maybe like 600. Command S to save, so we don't have too much of a outer glow thingy. So once I feather this out a bit, this should look good. If I press play, that's more like it. Command S to save. Now guys, look, this is a lazy edit, but look at how lazy this edit is, but look at how cool this looks. Command S to save, and then come over here to File, Export, Add to Render Queue, and then be sure to delete this top one. Change this to H.264. Be sure to go ahead and rename this to, I'm going to call it What You Will Be Making Energy Ball Kill. Enter, and then I'm going to process this. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial.